state under for PM's lockdown exit statement. Boris Johnson is due in the House of Commons in about 15 minutes' time. He'll be setting out more details on the government's plan to lift England's lockdown. He is what we are expecting for the first stage of his four-part plan. From 8th March, all schools will open with outdoor after-school sports and activities allowed. Recreation in a proper space, such as a park, will be allowed between two people, meaning they would be allowed to sit down for coffee, drink, or picnic. From 29th March, outdoor gatherings of either 6 people or 2 households will be allowed. It is understood this will include gatherings in private gardens. Outdoor sports facilities such as tennis or basketball courts will open, and organized adults and children's sports such as grassroots football will also return. But the PM will be able to set out to MPs more detail of his plan to lift the country out of restrictions. COVID-19, Boris Johnson to unveil cautious plan to lift England's lockdown. All schools in England are to reopen on 8th March as part of the Prime Minister's caution four-part plan to lift the coronavirus lockdown. Boris Johnson will share his finalized roadmap with ministers later before unveiling it to MPs and then leading a news conference at 19 GMT. Up to 6 people or 2 households will be allowed to meet outdoors from 29th March, the vaccines minister said. Rules will be lifted in stages and 4 conditions must be met at each stage. The vaccines minister Anza told BBC Breakfast the Prime Minister would set out more details on the plan in a common statement, which is expected at around 15:30. The first stage of easing will be split into 2 parts. From 8th March, all schools will open with outdoor after-school sports and activities allowed. Recreation in a public space such as a park will be allowed between 2 people, meaning they would be allowed to sit down for coffee, drink, or picnic. From 29th March, outdoor gatherings of either 6 people or 2 households will be allowed. It is understood this will include gatherings in private gardens. Outdoor sports facilities such as tennis or basketball courts will reopen, and organized adults and children's sports such as grassroots football will also return. Although schools are set to reopen to all pupils on 8th March, it is thought a few days flexibility may be built in to allow measures like testing to be put in place. Also on 8th March, new rules will allow each care home residents in England to have one regular visitor with whom they can hold hands. And from 29th March, it is also understood that people will once again be able to travel out of their areas, although guidance will likely still recommend staying local and overnight stays will not be permitted. The gap between each stage of restrictions being eased is expected to be 5 weeks. According to BBC political editor LK, it comes as children aged 3 to 7 in Wales return to the classroom, along with some students on practical college courses. Scotland's youngest pupils are also returning to face-to-face teaching in the first step of the phased reopening of schools there. Meanwhile, vaccination has had a significant impact on the risk of serious illness from COVID-19. Analysis by Public Health Scotland shows figures for England are expected later. Data will be used to inform every step of lifting restrictions, Mr. Johnson said. We will be cautious about this approach so that we do not undo the progress we have achieved so far and sacrifice each and every one of you has made to keep yourself and others safe, he added. The roadmap will outline 4 steps for easing restrictions, but before proceeding to each next step, the government will examine the data to assess the impact of previous changes. The 4 conditions that must be met at each phase of lockdown easing are: the first one, the coronavirus vaccine program continues to go to plan. Second, evidence shows vaccines are sufficiently reducing the number of people dying with the virus or needing hospital treatment. The third, infection rates do not risk a surge in hospital admissions. Fourth, new variants of the virus do not fundamentally change the risk of lifting restrictions. Downing Street said the 4 tests are currently being met, so the first step of lockdown easing in England will proceed as planned on 8 March. The first stage of easing restrictions will be across the whole of England. Downing Street added, due to the current uniform, 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 current
Uniform.
Due to the current uniform spread of the virus, MPs will be given the chance to vote on the regulations enabling England's roadmap in the coming weeks. Enabling. MPs will be given the chance to vote on the regulations enabling England's roadmap in the coming weeks. SCW, the vice chair of the 1922 Committee of Backbench Conservative MPs, said the government's later feasibility of infection levels dropped more quickly than expected. You can't have a timeline and say you are going to be data driven. You can either have one or the other, he told BBC Radio 4's World as one program.